Kia ora everyone, and welcome to our next Shift Happens session. Today we're talking with Manoli Aerakis from Malek McLean, and I was just practicing that before we jumped on the call. How are you going, Manoli?
Yeah, I'm going well. Thanks, Johnny. Well done on the pronunciation.
Yeah, I got there in the end. So I met Manoli several years ago when we moved back to Nelson with our business, and he had the unfortunate pleasure of helping me get set up with our business here in Nelson. And I've known Manoli for that time. He's been heavily involved in the local business community and startups and entrepreneurship circles here in Nelson with the likes of Chamber of Commerce and other things. And now Manoli is in his own practice with Malek McLean and has been doing some very good work over the past few weeks in terms of getting in with business owners and really offering sound strategic advice about how to navigate this time and come out of it stronger. So today we want to focus on what your advice is, Manoli, around how to initially secure ourselves against the kind of incoming storm that happened at a pace that I think was just completely unprecedented for everyone. So let's start there. For businesses that, there's two categories of business right now. There's an essential business that is scrambling to do things as safely as possible and maintain, and then there's a non-essential business that's been sent home. If you are a non-essential business, of which I'm sure you have many of them on your books at the moment, and you've currently been sent home, what's your advice on where to start in terms of cash flow and continuity planning right now?
Yeah, I think the first place to start is to definitely look at something like a continuity plan. Mm-hmm. So what that is really it's just a business plan, but in a slightly different format, and the one that we've created is following a Richard Branson model, actually, and it's if I explain that briefly, it might put into context how the continuity plan might come together. Mm-hmm. So with the Richard Branson model, and at the moment he's actually going through a little bit of turmoil over in the UK and being slammed for making redundancies, just like here with Air New Zealand. But really, his model still stands true even in this environment. And his model is all about putting the oxygen mask on yourself first. So you as the business owner, what happens normally is you as a business owner, you're getting pulled by your team, you're getting pulled by your customers, and you're getting pulled by your business. And you're like, where should I spend my time? Where should I be concentrating on? And a lot of people just go straight to their customers first. And it's not really the right way to go around it. So what we're saying is start with yourself. Have you got yourself set up at home? Have you got a bit of a plan for you and your family? Have you done a mini budget for yourself at home just to see what your personal expenses are required? Is your family set up in the sense that you've got work time, family time, and your own personal time, and looking after yourself around having the right sleep, and if fitness is your thing, get out there and do it. Or if just having an hour by yourself with no emails or phone calls or anything like that is where you get your wellness from, then do that first. And then once you've got you first, you sorted, and you've got the oxygen mask on yourself, then you can work on your team. And this is the order that I would recommend people do it. So then they go and work with their team. What are you doing around communication with your team? Have you got a WhatsApp group? Are you using Zoom? Are you doing it daily? For our business, we used to have a Monday morning meeting on a face-to-face, and it would go for about 40 minutes, and then we would go away for the rest of the week and do our thing. At the moment, we're daily on Zoom for about an hour, which is amazing. We've really ramped up that communication. And if you can get your team sorted and get them set up at home, them comfortable, them knowing the rules of the engagement around hours of work or flexibility and managing their kids and all that sort of stuff, because we all know how hard that's going to be. But you get them sorted, then they can help you with your customers. And that's the order. So you first, your team, and then into your customers. So, and using your team to help you engage with your customers, open those communication lines up. I was on a webinar this morning, and I said you could use new communication tools or innovative ones like Zoom and webinars. But really, I reckon picking up the phone is as good as anything right now. Pick up the phone, get your team to pick up the phone, call all your clients. And then what I've been saying is, why don't you sort of do a wee bit of a segment your database of your clients, maybe A to D. A's are when you ring them, they're okay. They're in a good spot. You know, they know what's going on in their business. They feel comfortable, or they know what's happening, and they've engaged. They're sort of communicating back saying, we're good. We can carry on. Then you've got your Ds who are like, no, we're going through a full restructure now. We are in a little bit of trouble. So knowing all about your customers and where they're at, but you get your team to do that. Once you've got your customers all sorted, then they will help your business. And the sort of effort that you put into your customers now will be, you'll see that at the other end when we come out of this, because they'll remember that effort that you put in right now and help your business on the way out of this. And then, of course, if you're doing that, then the business helps you as an owner. So instead of getting pulled in all of those different ways, think about you first, then your team, then your customers, then your business, and the business will help you out. So,
yeah, I think that's a really, really powerful point, because I think, you know, you're no good to anyone unless you're good to yourself. And regardless of at the moment, you know, how strong you are, or as I think as entrepreneurs, we've all kind of got that underlying sense of, no, we're up for it and we're used to disruption, and you know, you want to be a strong leader during this time, but you can't be unless you've got your own foundation sorted, and that's really important right now. And people shouldn't underestimate the amount of the stress is kind of obvious to people. Of course, it's stressful. There's things are really changing so rapidly. The pace is so relentless, but also there is an element of grief in there for people, of actually recognizing that things are changing. And for a lot of people, in fact, I would say most people, their businesses won't be the same. And I think it's important to give that some attention, because that's not a doomsday scenario. It's just kind of accepting as fast as possible that things are not going to be exactly as they were. They will be different, and different's okay. And as soon as you get your head around that, I think it's a useful place to be. One thing that I've observed in businesses that I've been working with over the past couple of weeks is, clearly it's better for businesses who have some cash reserves to get them through. But the response that I've witnessed, and people's ability to cope and navigate it and provide good leadership for their team, and to secure their kind of brand loyalty with their customers and stuff right now, has had very little to do with people's financial position. I've seen some businesses whose prospects are the worst do the best job at that. So it's quite a sifting at the moment of the way people kind of respond to these crises, because I know for sure businesses that in hospitality and tourism and things that are clearly facing huge challenges right now, and some of them have thoroughly impressed me with their ability to communicate coherently and clearly with their team and with their customers in such a way that secures their loyalty in terms of their company culture and the way their staff view them and trust them, and knowing their staff have their back. And then with their customers too, who right now can't buy from them, but still build brand reputation and recognition and loyalty through this time in such a way that means even if and when they are forced to pivot, they have actually secured and salvaged something through this period, rather than kind of collapsing at the knees and freaking out and then going the opposite way and having nothing at the end of it.
Yeah, no, you're bang on, Johnny, because in the webinar that I did this morning, and I did one for the Chamber as well, we talked about the 7 ways to grow your business. And why the hell would we talk about 7 ways to grow your business during this crisis, you know? But really, those fundamentals don't change. And I'm trying to encourage business owners to keep active in that space. So, you know, there's sort of 5 ways you can grow sales. One's around client retention. So it's still 6 times easier to sell to an existing client than to go and find a new one.
I think it's 100 times easier at the moment.
It's so. What are we doing to delight those customers? Have we got services or support, or what could we mobilise when we get out of lockdown? Of course, could we mobilise our team to go and do a day's work for them, or what could it be? You know, just think really outside the square. And then if you're looking at sort of lead generation, you know, right now everyone's on their phones looking at social media. Like, I'd hate to think what the screen time is at the moment on mine and my family's. But so maybe you want to try a Facebook ad. Have you tried that? And
And
even
could I just interrupt there for a second? Well, sorry, I'll let you finish. But just to point out as well, if people weren't aware, that Facebook was at max ad load prior to this, and economies all around the world are collapsing and businesses are having to close. And what people might not be aware of yet in the advertising space, and I've been intending to do a video on it, is that the actual ad cost at the moment is actually really low, and the real estate that's available is really high. And so people are pulling out of everyone all around the world at the moment are pausing their Facebook ads and pausing their Google AdWords, and both of those platforms are an auction, and when less people are bidding and participating, the cost comes down. So we've got a weird situation at the moment where people's attention is more wholly focused on social media than ever before, for sure. And there's a lot of noise to compete with, so it's hard organically because there's an onslaught of information and noise coming at them. But with advertising in particular, it's actually quite accessible at the moment. So it's just an interesting kind of point to make for
yeah.
people.
Oh, that's good. I might have to. I've noted that down for myself. So. And even during these time around trying to find new leads, I saw a plumber was on TV the other day, and what he'd done, I think he was up in Bay of Plenty, and he had knocked his hourly rate in half and said he'll do plumbing services at half rate. But if you're able to pay the full rate, he'll give the other half to a charity. So he's giving it to Women's Refuge.
Nice,
But
nice.
he's been on the news, he's been on social media, he's been in print media. That's lead gen, right? So
Yeah, and also the Cheer Sisters. I don't know
yeah,
if you saw what they did as well, but it's similar example of. I think they put in their article that they wrote for Stuff. They 80% of their revenue was hospitality, and so that ended overnight for them, and that's serious for any business to lose 80% of their revenue. And instead of ending up in a heap in the corner, they bounced back and were able to stay operational due to the essential services category. And they recognised they had to move to online ordering, but that their future success depends on these businesses surviving as well, and that they have loyalty and care for their customers right throughout. And that was their brand beforehand, it's their brand now. And so they set up the system where you can basically nominate a cafe, and the cafes become their advocates and their ambassadors to buy the product, and it gets money circulating back to cafes where they pay them a commission for all the sales. Really smart thinking, really smart.
Yeah, so there's stuff like that popping up all the time, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic. If I can go through the others, but one of the big ones is if you're a tradie, or not even a tradie, if you're anyone that hasn't back costed a job, and I, as an accountant, we're always banging on back cost your jobs. Did you make that margin on that job? But now's a perfect time to grab your last 10 jobs, go through. Did you make that margin you thought you made on it? And then get your team to help you strategize how you could have done that smarter. So when you come out of the lockdown, when we sort of start looking at, I wouldn't say normal, but a different type of way of doing business, at least we've really refined some of that stuff. So all of those 7 ways to grow your business is still relevant right now. And you pivot as well, because I think that's the word that we're all using, Johnny, is, pivot your business. I've never done a webinar in my life. I'm not like Johnny, who he's a digital native. So I had to learn that, and I've already done 3. So it's cool. It's something new that I'm really stoked that I've done.
Yeah, and on a lot of those pivots, for sure, people won't go back. We will come out of lockdown, and this country will bounce back very strong, I think. But I know for sure that I've had lots of meetings in the past couple of weeks because we were isolated a bit earlier. So I've had meetings in the last couple of weeks that I thought, man, I really did not need to fly to Wellington for that. I just didn't, and I can't see a scenario where in a couple of weeks I think I will be able to view it in the same way, because it is there are a lot of unnecessary meetings. There's a lot of time wasting, and there's a lot of commuting that I don't think needs to occur. And I do think people will adjust things for people in that sense. Also interesting thinking about sales and those businesses. So essential businesses right now, if you're a tradie that's in the essential services, or you're in the food business, then there's ways and means of being really clever with your strategy at the moment to kind of maximize the opportunity. And I'm very encouraging of it, because if we in a lockdown period, the worst case scenario is that all the money circulating just goes to 2 supermarket companies in the country. We need to be smarter than that. We need to make make sure that we are doing everything we can to keep our community safe first and foremost, but secondly, support and prop up local businesses who need it right now, and we can definitely achieve both. And so I think it's important for people who are on the fence, who are not sure whether they should be operating in that essential services category. There are safe ways of doing it. You do have the license from the ministry. This lockdown will be very effective. By all measures, it seems like it's going to work. And so, please, if you can, do operate. And for everyone else who still needs to buy food and drinks and things, I brought my wine off Cornwall this week off their website rather than at the supermarket. It's simple things. I've drank a lot of it. But
I
there's
don't know
also
if it's COVID that's going to get us or liver disease. I don't know.
time will tell. There's also another category of businesses in there that interests me that I'm keen to bounce on you with is things like hairdressers who right now have no ability to operate, who are in complete lockdown and in the same scenario as the rest of us, which is for those businesses, they just can't operate right now. But on the other side of it, there will be huge demand for things like hairdressers. And I think businesses like that need to actually start thinking now, okay, we are in the second week of this lockdown. We all know that there's a possible scenario that this gets extended, but as it stands, it feels like this is going to be quite effective. So let's assume on the optimistic side that next month we're entering a different we're entering a different level, and if that's the case, then things like there will be a whole category there that pops open, like takeaways and hairdressers and things like that weren't open before, and they will, if they're not prepared for it and haven't taken action at the moment, I don't think they'll be able to keep up. So it's really worth thinking about, I think.
Oh, for sure. And I did see one hairdresser up in Auckland actually just contact their client base and they're starting to schedule people in.
Yeah.
So all they've got is this map for the next 6 months, and they're scheduling, and all they got to do is, if we're in lockdown and we're only for a month, then it happens, and if we're in lockdown for 6 weeks, it just pushes out. But people are scheduled in, and people want to hold their spot. Guess what? They're paying a deposit.
Yeah.
So we're getting some cash into those businesses to help top up the wage subsidy and things like that. And then people are going, "Yep, I've got my appointment at 2:00 on a Thursday when we come out of this lockdown. I can't wait because I didn't get in before."
No, I procrastinated. Worst decision. I'm a bad procrastinator, but that one was a shocker. no barber pre-lockdown.
Think of ways that you can engage with your client base or your network, and I think at this time, I know it sounds a little bit strange, but I think we should have this abundance mentality. So get together with your so-called competitors and just talk and say, well, how are you going to tackle it? Well, what if we get an overrun? We'll feed them over to you. Or how about you do a late night Thursday and we'll do a late night Wednesday?
I totally agree. Yeah, I completely agree. What's one of the best outcomes I've seen is across industries, people having to band together and think differently, which, collaboratively rather than competitively is definitely the go right now. And I think, I saw that in hospitality straight away, where they all started talking to each other immediately about how to operate safely for the period of time and how to also close and support their staff and maintain the business. And they supported each other. And I think on the other side, I suspect, and I don't know for sure, but I suspect on the other side that the likelihood of coming immediately out of lockdown and hospitality being operating as normal is quite low. But I do, it's conceivable to think that takeaways and deliveries and things will be possible. So if you're in a small town like Motueka or Nelson or wherever, it's probably not viable for you to have a driver on all the time doing deliveries to houses, for example. But if you think smart about it, like you're suggesting, then so we could be operating things that we haven't had here, the Uber Eats kind of model of actually having people taking food home, delivering food to homes, and actually the hospitality outlet sharing the cost of that and sharing the system. And I think that's the kind of thinking that's going to be required to take advantage of it. I do have one thing I did see circulating in the last couple of weeks that I think is probably needs to be flagged a bit, and while we're talking to an accountant, there's no better time, which is that there are a lot of cafes at the moment and other businesses, I've seen retailers doing it, who are getting a bit gift voucher crazy, and I think I can absolutely see the appeal of right now, from a consumer point of view, supporting the cafes and retailers and things that I love, the brands, keeping them going, My concern is that I know for sure there are cafes and retailers who aren't feeling that confident about operating on the other side of it. And I think people have to be very careful about taking a lot of cash in at the moment on services they might not be able to deliver on. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, 100%. And again, I think this comes back to having that continuity plan, which outlines all of these things. And part of that continuity plan is having a bit of a cash flow model. And there's lots of support out there to get one of these now. So the Regional Partners Program, which is the capability voucher, which the Chamber of Commerce administer, that's been given a bit of an injection of money to help businesses through this. So you can, if you contact the chamber, they can put you in touch with providers to do a cash flow for you. So to actually do one, which will be awesome, and it can be up to 100% funded. So I think lots of business owners need to reach out and look at those, and contact your accountant. Make sure that see what they're offering. We're doing sort of half price fees on some of that stuff as well at the moment. So because we just want people to be armed. I'm sure other accountants will do the same. So look, it's reach out, get that cash flow model, and then you can play around with it. Then because you can run scenarios. You can go, what if we do a voucher system? Well, what would that look like? And what about if they all came in on the same 3 weeks? Would we be out of business as soon as we opened? Or where are you going to put that cash? Is it going to be put into a different bank account? And all of those scenarios. But you did right, Johnny. You've got to be very careful what you do now. And I'm not a massive fan of discounting anyway. So if you weren't doing it in the past, then just think of other ways that you can reach out to your clients and get that engagement, I think.
And I know for sure that the industries that are the most kind of on the front line of the impact, which I would see as tourism and hospitality at the moment, knowing those businesses fairly well, neither of those industries have the margin to discount anyway. So survival for the sake of survival is really not the point here. If you're having to discount to a point where it's not going to be viable for your business, you're wasting your energy. You need to rethink your strategy overall, and start to give some attention to the fact that the market is going to be entirely different. So we will come out of lockdown. I think that elimination strategy will be really effective, but I think we all understand that the likelihood of enduring that amount of economic and social pain to then open the borders and have it all come back through again is highly unlikely. And so we are facing the prospect of really sitting that one out for some time, which puts New Zealand in an interesting position. And I know that if we're thinking about hospitality and tourism, that there are new opportunities emerging for domestic visitation around the country, and people will want to get out, but it looks different. It doesn't look the same. You can't meet this new economy with the same way you're approaching it prior.
You're bang on. Yeah, no, you did right there. So it's definitely you have a continuity plan, and the continuity plan gets you through this period. But then you need that plan of when your doors are going to be open again, and what does that look like? So, start first with your continuity plan for your business. Then look at what is the plan going to be once we open? What is our organisational structure? What's our service offering? I think Johnny, you mentioned earlier when we're offline about that person used to be the main guide, but now they're cleaning the toilets and greeting the people and taking the money and the main guide. So a bit of rationalisation in your business and right now, and then for the future will be put you in that what I call sort of increase the probability of success. That's what we're trying to do, is just increase the probability.
Yeah, and so that's a really good point. So if you've got an existing business and you think about the capacity at which you've been operating, one of the first questions you need to assess is, okay, in a changing market, if the demand for my product is less, i.e. tourism, if my demand for my product is less, do I have the kind of business model where I can scale that back? And can I be smarter about the staff and make sure that the tandem master is also greeting the person and driving the person, and things that we wouldn't normally do? Can I scale back to a few days a week rather than 7 days a week? That's the first thing to assess. And of course, one of the challenges for people in that situation is that some of their other overheads don't move, and so a lot of their fixed costs will be the same with reduced operation. But that's one of the first assessments. And if that doesn't work, if that situation doesn't stack up, then you need to seriously think about a pivot. And when you pivot, you've got your team, your customers, your brand, and your systems, so the product can change, because all of those things, the value carries. And so, if you've got the right system set up where you can easily access your customers and talk to them, and you've got smooth kind of operations from that level, then the actual product can change quite easily, and your business retains some value. But I'm also aware that not everyone will be in a position right now to even think about that. And so I'm encouraging a lot of forward thinking and pivoting strategies. And I'm on the front line as much as possible with people, helping design how it's going to look at the other end. But I think we wouldn't be doing everyone justice right now without discussing those who that's not looking likely. And so if what's your advice for people right now who feel like they're kind of in financial freefall, like they've just, how do they kind of stop the bleeding right now? What are the first steps to stop the bleeding so they can find some headspace to reassess?
Well, it's a really good point. It's quite tough. I would definitely surround yourself with a third or third person, whether it's your advisor, your coach, your mentor, or accountant, or just someone who you can bounce ideas off, because they're going to be able to think a lot more clearly and look at things from a different angle. When it's all about you, I don't know if you've ever been in stress by when it's just you. You can't think outside. You've got the blinkers on. You're like, there's no way this can be any different to what it is right now. But getting a third person in there definitely helps. I would also, I think you need to really think about if you do your continuity plan, you'll quickly see as well, Johnny, like maybe the best thing is that you close, and knowing that early, and preserving some of the wealth that you've built up is the best thing. And then that freedom then can give you that ability then to pivot in a totally different way. We do talk about that in the webinars we've done, because it's a reality. Like for some businesses, it's like, yep, we're going to close, or yes, we're going to make 80% of our team redundant, and that's the right thing to do for that business right now. But if you keep hanging on to everything, then all you're going to do is do a whole lot of things wrong. Your team aren't going to thank you for it. Your customers aren't going to thank you for it. And your business is definitely not going to thank you for it. And then you end up, not having that ability to pivot. So I think, really assess your business with someone externally right now, where it is, and that should give you that clarity, I think.
That makes complete sense, and I think it's an important point, and just in case people sort of missed it before, that you can there has been a new injection, and you can reach out to the chamber to access that as well. There is help available if you need a third party in talking to you at the moment. And actually, I've been finding that my experience so far is that also the chamber are very happy to jump on the phone with you and talk it through as well. So there is support out there. And one thing I'm finding interesting about the whole experience is, businesses go under all the time, and business people struggle with cash flow and finances and all sorts of personal and business circumstances that are incredibly stressful. And this is different because everyone is affected in one way or another. There's without a doubt, there's a spectrum there, and some people are better off than others. But this is an opportunity for us to talk about things in business that I don't think we normally talk about. It's not, when people ask you how your business is going, you just say it's great. You just say it's awesome, and you keep positive. And in the background, I know from having close relationships with all my clients, I know that in the background sometimes it's chaotic and it's stressful, and cash flow is hard, and business is just quite challenging in general. So it's a good opportunity to change that culture, I think, in New Zealand business, and actually just have some of the hard conversations. And like you've pointed out, right now your team will appreciate honesty more than anything. And I'm reminding business owners at the moment that although hard decisions need to be made, and you need to do the right thing, and employment laws still exist, and all of those things, the rule book has not been thrown out, but to just remember that this is not a problem of your doing. It's not a situation you created. This is not your fault. It's stressful, and there's nothing quite like having people's livelihoods sitting on your shoulder as a business owner, but this is not your fault. And everyone understands and recognizes that it is really hard times and hard decisions need to be made, and people will respect you for your courage and your transparency during those times rather than trying to kind of avoid it.
Yep. No, 100%. 100%.
And I think, so that's, I think it was good to address that because some people are facing that and they are contending with that. So I think the salient point there is get some help, get some advice, don't go this alone. The other thing I would say is that you've pointed out how important it is to get a clear picture as quickly as possible. But also I think we need to remember that get the information as quickly as possible. And if you're sort of financially hemorrhaging, then there will be obvious scenarios where you're going, well, this is just not going to work for me. But I am also experiencing a lot of businesses making decisions way too fast about problems that haven't occurred yet. Like I saw businesses completely freaking out and pushing that energy out to the staff and things before their bank account had changed $1, like way before the impact was actually realized. And so no one can forecast anything at the moment. I've got a reasonably optimistic view of where New Zealand and Nelson Tasman emerges from this in a global context, recognizing that everything is changing around the world anyway. But no one really knows, and so I think we have to be pretty careful not to talk ourselves into a deeper recession than we're in.
100%. 100%. Like we will come out of this. So every crisis in history, we've come out of it. The bounce backs, generally we bounce back better than we did before we went in. And so, that's just a key thing to keep in your mind. We will come out of this. We always do. How long or what it will look like, we don't know. But we will definitely come out of this. And it'll just be slightly different. And lots of us will pivot and introduce new things into our businesses. The key here is to make sure you look after your team and your team look after your customers, and and then you're just increasing that probability of success on the way out.
And I think there are two massive just to kind of let's wrap up on this point, like there are two massive opportunities that I would be spying at the moment, and some people's heads might not be here yet, but for sure, if you're in a position to do so, and you've got your own oxygen mask on, and you are in a position to give the future some headspace, which it's completely understandable if people are not at the moment. But there's a couple of opportunities that I can see that are just really clear, and one of them is the fact that whatever industry you're in, if things have been competitive in the past and you're in an industry like hospitality or tourism where there are a lot of small operators and very little, our industry in New Zealand, our tourism hospital industry in New Zealand is almost entirely all small players. And I think right now it's a reality that not everyone is going to survive. And so if you are in a position to weather this one out, either through your own cash reserves or even if you're stripping back operations next season, there is good lending available at the moment from government too, or propped up by government. So if it makes sense for you to secure yourself and ride it out and make the most of the opportunity at the moment, then be aware that there is a big upside, because not every cafe will survive and not every tourism operator will survive, not every retailer will. And so it's likely that if you can ride it out, you could end up in a much stronger position for the rebound. So it's worth considering how much you're willing to invest in that and moving forward. The second thing that people should be thinking about a lot is that the government has very clearly signalled that there is a massive economic stimulus on the way. And they're not making the decisions about where to put that money in 6 months' time. They're making those decisions right now. And so if you are in a trades business right now, if you are a property developer, if you are tapped into any of those kind of government ecosystems where you think you might be on the receiving end of that. For example, I know for sure the government will be looking at economic stimulus around retrofitting of housing. So if you're thinking windows and heating and ventilation, insulation, all of those things, it's pretty clear already that the government's going to have a fairly generous view on industries like that. But also if you think about shovel-ready projects is the term at the moment. The government is on the lookout for shovel-ready projects in regions that will offer economic stimulus. So people should be thinking, even if it's a complete pivot, starting to think about how they can for some time there'll be less money circulating, and the biggest influencer on the money that's coming through will be government. And so putting yourself in the right place to benefit from that, I think, is something really worth considering as well.
Yeah, and I think just to touch on that, Johnny, is all the stimulus packages that are out there, the bank support, etc., is about keeping the economy moving. So we really want people to be still paying their bills, or call their suppliers and do a deal, do a payment plan, or maybe you might want to, at this time, if you've got cash, maybe you want to buy that stock because it's going to be not there in the future. So you want to have it on the shelves ready to go to climb out when the doors do open again. But the whole idea, the subsidy, the bank packages, the stimulus packages, I think essential services are probably going to get a wee boost the next week or two as well. So it's all about just keep paying your bills and doing deals with your suppliers, because we want that money to be flowing through the economy. If you sit back and hold on to some cash and you don't pass out the subsidy, you don't pay your creditors, that's the worst thing we could be doing right now.
Totally agree. It's a great point to finish on, because it's really, we all have somewhat of a social responsibility to really look at, where we are in this together, and everyone's kind of future economic outlook is dependent on how everyone behaves right now. And so getting behind local businesses at the moment during the essential services time, I see is really important, and I'm really encouraging of it. And I think getting money circulating and making sure that everyone is paid where you have the ability to, and some people won't, and acknowledge that, but where you can, rather than hoarding, now's the time to keep those bills paid, keep that money circulating. I think the more that we all behave in that way and tackle this crisis kind of with our best selves, then the more likely we are to rebound faster. And I think New Zealand right now is in a position where we can do that on so many levels, on the health and safety level of the virus, but also economically on making sure that we remember the best parts of this crisis and strengthen the things that obviously need strengthening as a result, and just take advantage of those new opportunities. So it's a scary and daunting time in so many respects, and fully recognise that it's worse for others who are feeling really in the firing line at the moment, on the coal face of those changes. But underneath all of that, there is new creativity emerging. There are new opportunities. We will bounce back. Things will look different, but the opportunities on the other side are definitely worth thinking about and giving energy to. I just want people to remember that those both emotions have their place, and it's okay to feel scared. It's okay to feel uncertain at the moment. Everyone does. Go easy on yourself, but also recognise that to have creative breakthroughs and make good strategic decisions, that creativity and fear can't coexist. And so you need to find the headspace at the appropriate times to give your business the love it deserves, without all of that murking in the background. You don't want to make decisions based on fear and uncertainty.
No, you did right, Johnny. Actually, the word crisis has got, when it's translated in Chinese, it's got two symbols, and one says danger, and the other one says opportunity. So, and together they crisis. So pretty insightful, I thought, when I saw that.
Yeah, really insightful. That's awesome. I think I've said that we'll finish on that note about 3 or 4 times now, which just shows that we could probably talk all afternoon. But that is the perfect note to finish on. So, hey, thanks, Manoli, for all your advice and the work that you've been doing. And we'll make sure that if anyone on the group has questions for Manoli, he is in the group, and so please fire away. And we'll, if anyone's got any further questions or just things that they'd like us to discuss, then I'm more than happy to jump on another call. And I'm sure you are too. Awesome. Cheers, Manoli.
Johnny, I have got I have got a continuity template and a guide that I'm happy to give away for free for anyone out there that wants to grab. So I'll just send that to you on an email, and maybe you can get it out to the group.
Sounds great. Yeah, I'll put a link in when we post the video and make sure people can have access to it. That's awesome. Thanks, mate.
Right. Cheers.
Cheers.